I will note for the record that Mr. Zuckerberg and Mr. Shou are appearing voluntarily. I am disappointed that our other witnesses did not offer that same degree of cooperation. Mr. Citron, Mr. Spiegel, and Ms. Yaccarino are here pursuant to subpoenas, and Mr. Citron only accepted service of his subpoena after U.S. Marshals were sent to Discord's headquarters at taxpayers' expense.
TikTok CEO Shou repeatedly denied under oath an affiliation with the Chinese Community Party, CCP, on Wednesday, as U.S. senators grilled him during a hearing on big tech and the online child exploitation crisis. Senators Ted Cruz, R-Texas, and Tom Cotton, R-Arc, referenced how TikTok, which is controlled by the Chinese company ByteDance, is subject to a 2017 national intelligence law requiring Chinese companies to hand over data to the Chinese government.
News on Capitol Hill today, CEOs of the largest social media companies faced a bipartisan grilling during a Senate hearing on protecting children online. And one of the most dramatic moments came when Meta's Mark Zuckerberg was pressured to face parents in attendance and apologize. CBS's Jolene Kent was there.
How are you keeping kids safe online? Why should parents, how are you keeping kids safe online? Why should parents trust Meta anymore?
Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg, along with the heads of Snap, TikTok, X, and Discord, on Capitol Hill today for a grilling from lawmakers.
Shou, who repeatedly testified he serves his nation of Singapore and has not pursued Chinese citizenship or a passport from China or any other nation, tried to make the distinction that it would be only the Chinese companies controlled by ByteDance that would be subject to the law, and said efforts like Project Texas, implemented to store the TikTok data of American users on American soil, are a safeguard.
How do you convince the Congress of the United States that there can be a clean break? Why would the Chinese government sidestep their national law, including Article 7, Article 10, in terms of user data?
Congressman, thank you for the question. I'm glad you asked this. As I said in the opening statement, our plan is to move American data to be stored on American soil by the American company.
I understand that, but you're sidestepping, or I haven't read anything in terms of TikTok, how you can actually say, and you spoke in your opening statement about a firewall relative to the data. But the Chinese government has that data. How can you promise that that will move into the United States of America and be protected here?
Congressman, I have seen no evidence that the Chinese government has access to that data. They have never asked us. We have not provided.
Well, you know what? I find that actually preposterous.
Isn't it the case that ByteDance also has an internal Chinese Communist Party committee? Cotton said. Like I said, all businesses that operate in China have to follow the law, Shou responded. So your parent company is subject to the national security law that requires it to answer to the party. It has its own internal Chinese Communist Party committee. You answer to that parent company, but you expect us to believe that you're not under the influence of the Chinese Communist Party, Cotton said.
You said today, as you often say, that you live in Singapore. Of what nation are you a citizen?
Singapore.
Are you a citizen of any other nation?
No, Senator.
Have you ever applied for Chinese citizenship?
Senator, I served my nation in Singapore. No, I did not.
Do you have a Singaporean passport?
Yes, and I served my military for two and a half years in Singapore.
Do you have any other passports from any other nations?
No, Senator.
Your wife is an American citizen. Your children are American citizens.
That's correct.
Have you ever applied for American citizenship?
No, not yet.
Okay. Have you ever been a member of the Chinese Communist Party?
Senator, I'm Singaporean. No.
Have you ever been associated or affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party?
No, Senator. Again, okay. I'm Singaporean.
Let me ask you some hopefully simple questions.
Shou, who resides in Singapore with his wife and children, all American citizens, testified that he used to work as the chief financial officer of ByteDance. Cotton noted how the CCP's China and Internet Investment Fund purchased a 1% stake in ByteDance's main Chinese subsidiary, the ByteDance Technology Company. And in return for that 1% golden share, Cotton said the party took one of 3 board seats at that subsidiary company.
Let me start by addressing a few misconceptions about ByteDance, of which we are a subsidiary. ByteDance is not owned or controlled by the Chinese government. It's a private company. 60% of the company is owned by global institutional investors. 20% is owned by the founder, and 20% owned by employees around the world. ByteDance has 5 board members. 3 of them are American. Now, TikTok itself is not available in mainland China. We're headquartered in Los Angeles and in Singapore, and we have 7,000 employees in the US today. Still, we have heard important concerns about the potential for unwanted foreign access to US data and potential manipulation of the TikTok US ecosystem. Our approach has never been to dismiss or trivialize any of these concerns. We have addressed them with real action. Now, that's what we've been doing for the last 2 years, building what amounts to a firewall that seals off protected US user data from unauthorized foreign access.
Shou insisted it was only a coincidence that the deal was finalized on April 30th, 2021, and he was appointed the CEO of TikTok the very next day, on May 1st, 2021. It's a coincidence, Cotton asked, to which Shou insisted, it is. That's a hell of a coincidence, Cotton exclaimed. Before working for ByteDance, as Cotton noted, Shou worked for a Chinese company for about 5 years and lived in Beijing then. That same company was sanctioned by the US in 2021 for being a communist Chinese military company, Cotton explained. But the Biden administration later reversed those sanctions.
There are, as with many companies, some shared resources on some services, but it doesn't include anything that involves US user data, Congressman, is in Project Texas, as we talked about, stored by default in American soil by an American company.
But currently there is shared technology or interconnected IT systems.
Congressman, with respect, I have to get back to you. This could be a very broad question. Like, for example, we could all be using Microsoft Windows.
Yeah, if you could get back with details on that, I'd appreciate
it.
Can Douyin personnel or employees access TikTok user data?
Not after Project Texas, this is not allowed.
Are there employees who are employed by both Douyin and TikTok?
I do not believe so.
Okay. I don't believe so. Is that again, I'll allow you to come back in a written response if you could give me a definitive answer.
I will go back and check to be very sure.
Earlier, Cruz asserted that China's version of TikTok, Douyin, feeds beneficial and educational materials to children on the Chinese mainland. But the same's not the case in the US. Now, you said earlier, and I wrote this down, we have not been asked for any data by the Chinese government, and we have never provided it, Cruz said, quoting Chou's earlier testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee. I'm going to tell you, and I told this when you and I met last week in my office, I do not believe you. And I'll tell you, the American people don't either. If you look at what is on TikTok in China, you are promoting to kids science and math videos, educational videos, and you limit the amount of time kids can be on TikTok. In the United States, you are promoting to kids self-harm videos and anti-Israel propaganda. Why is there such a dramatic difference?
Now, you said earlier, and I wrote this down, we have not been asked for any data by the Chinese government, and we have never provided it. I'm going to tell you, and I told this when you and I met last week in my office, I do not believe you. And I'll tell you, the American people don't either. If you look at what is on TikTok in China, you are promoting to kids science and math videos, educational videos, and you limit the amount of time kids can be on TikTok. In the United States, you are promoting to kids self-harm videos and anti-Israel propaganda. Why is there such a dramatic difference?
Senator, that is just not accurate. There's
not a difference between what kids see in China and what kids see here?
Senator, TikTok is not available in China. It's a separate experience there. What I'm saying is...
But you have a company that is essentially the same, except it promotes beneficial materials instead of harmful materials.
That is not true. We have a lot of science and math content here on TikTok. There's so much of it. I created a STEM feed for 100 billion views.
Let me point to this, Mr. Shou. There was a report recently that compared hashtags on Instagram to hashtags on TikTok, and what trended, and the differences were striking.
Cruz cited a study contrasting searches for Taylor Swift or former President Trump against other terms the CCP might be intent on censoring, such as Uyghur, the mostly Muslim ethnic group in China, as well as Hong Kong, where widespread anti-Chinese government protests unfolded in recent years, and Tiananmen Square, the Beijing site of the 1989 massacre of hundreds to thousands of students.
So, for something like hashtag Taylor Swift or hashtag Trump, researchers found roughly 2 Instagram posts for every one on TikTok. That's not a dramatic difference. That difference jumps to 8 to 1 for the hashtag Uyghur. And it jumps to 30 to 1 for the hashtag Tibet. And it jumps to 57 to 1 to the hashtag Tiananmen Square. And it jumps to 174 to 1 for the hashtag Hong Kong protest. Why is it that on Instagram, people can put up a hashtag Hong Kong protest 174 times compared to TikTok? What censorship is TikTok doing at the request of the Chinese government?
None. Senator, that analysis is
explain that
flawed.
differential.
The analysis is flawed. It's been debunked by other external sources like the Cato Institute. Fundamentally, a few things happen here. Not all videos carry hashtags. That's the first thing. The second thing is that you cannot selectively choose a few words within a certain time
Why the
period.
difference between Taylor Swift and Tiananmen Square? What happened in Tiananmen Square?
Senator, there was a massive protest during that time. But what I'm trying to say is our users can freely come and post this
Why
content.
would there be no difference on Taylor Swift, or a minimal difference, and a massive difference on Tiananmen Square or Hong Kong?
Senator, could you wrap up, please?
Senator Lindsey Graham, RSC, gave a harsh rebuke to Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg at the onset of Wednesday's highly anticipated big tech hearing on child exploitation online. Mr. Zuckerberg, you and the companies before us, I know you don't mean it to be so, but you have blood on your hands, Graham, ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, said, garnering applause from the audience. You have a product that's killing people. Graham referenced South Carolina State Rep. Brandon Guffey, who is suing Instagram after his 17-year-old son Gavin died by suicide after falling victim to an extortion group from Nigeria operating through the Meta-owned app.
Gavin Guffey is a representative, Republican representative from South Carolina in the Rock Hill area. To all the victims who came and showed us photos of your loved ones, don't quit. It's working. You're making a difference. Through you, we'll get to where we need to go so other people won't have to show a photo of their family. The damage to your family's been done. Hopefully we can take your pain and turn it into something positive so nobody else has to hold up a sign. Gavin's son got online to Instagram and was tricked by a group in Nigeria that put up a young lady posing to be his girlfriend, and as things go at that stage in life, he gave her some photos, compromising sexual photos, and it turned out that she was part of a extortion group in Nigeria. They threatened the young man that if you don't give us money, we're going to expose these photos. He gave them money, but it wasn't enough. They kept threatening, and he killed himself. They threatened Mr. Guffey and a son. These are bastards by any known definition. Mr. Zuckerberg, you and the companies before us, I know you don't mean it to be so, but you have blood on your hands. You have a product. You have a product that's killing people.
They threatened the young man that if you don't give us money, we're going to expose these photos. He gave them money, but it wasn't enough. They kept threatening, and he killed himself. They threatened Mr. Guffey and a son. These are bastards. By any known definition, Graham said. Graham noted that Congress has taken action to regulate cigarettes and tobacco, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives regulates guns. Yet social media companies are largely shielded from being held liable in court under Section 230 of Title 47 of the United States Code that was enacted as part of the Communications Decency Act of 1996. The bottom line is you can't be sued, you should be. And these emails would be great for punitive damages, Graham said, referencing Senator Richard Blumenthal, D-Con, and Senator Marsha Blackburn, R10, whom he dubbed the dynamic duo for recently releasing 90 pages of internal emails from fall 2021 showing top Meta officials weighing the addition of dozens of engineers and other employees to focus on children's well-being and safety. The emails show that one proposal to Zuckerberg for 45 new staff members was declined.
When we had cigarettes killing people, we did something about it, maybe not enough. You're going to talk about guns, we have the ATF. Nothing here. There's not a damn thing anybody can do about it. You can't be sued. Now, Senator Blumenthal and Blackburn, who've been like the dynamic duo here, have found emails from your company where they warned you about this stuff, and you decided not to hire 45 people that could do a better job of policing this. So the bottom line is you can't be sued. You should be. And these emails would be great for punitive damages. But the courtroom's closed to every American abused by all the companies in front of me. Of all the people in America we could give blanket liability protection to, this would be the last group I would pick. It is now time to repeal Section 230. This committee is made up of ideologically most different people you could find. We've come together through your leadership, Mr. Chairman, to pass 5 bills.
But the courtroom's closed to every American abused by all the companies in front of me. Of all the people in America we could give blanket liability protection to, this would be the last group I would pick. It is now time to repeal Section 230, Graham said. We live in an America in 2024 where there is no regulatory body dealing with the most profitable, biggest companies in the history of the world, Graham said. They can't be sued, and there's not one law on the books that's meaningful in protecting the American consumer. Zuckerberg did not address Graham's blood on your hands comment directly in his own opening statement. Over the last 8 years, we've built more than 30 different tools, resources, and features that parents can set time limits for their teens using our apps, see who they're following, or if they report someone for bullying, Zuckerberg said in part. Mental health is a complex issue, and the existing body of scientific work has not shown a causal link between using social media and young people having worse mental health outcomes. A recent National Academies of Science report evaluated over 300 studies and found that research, quote, did not support the conclusion that social media causes changes in adolescent mental health, and also suggested that social media can provide significant positive benefits when young people use it to express themselves, explore, and connect with others, he said.
We live in America in 2024 where there is no regulatory body dealing with the most profitable, biggest companies in the history of the world. They can't be sued, and there's not one law on the book that's meaningful protecting the American consumer. Other than that, we're in a good spot. So here's what I think is going to happen. I think after this hearing today, we're going to put a lot of pressure on our colleagues, leadership of the Republican Democratic Senate, to let these bills get to the floor and vote. And I'm going to go down, starting in a couple of weeks, make unanimous consent request to do CSAM, do the Earn It Act, do your bill, do all the bills, and you can be famous, come and object. I'm going to give you a chance to be famous. Now, Elizabeth Warren and Lindsey Graham have almost nothing in common. I promised her I would say that publicly. The only thing worse than me doing a bill with Elizabeth Warren is her doing a bill with me. We have sort of parked that because Elizabeth and I see an abuse here that needs to be dealt with. Senator Durbin and I have different political philosophies, but I appreciate what you've done on this committee. You've been a great partner. To all of my Democratic colleagues, thank you very, very much. To my Republican colleagues, thank you all very, very much.
Zuckerberg and the top bosses from TikTok, Snap, X, and Discord were grilled in a packed room in Washington that included parents and family members who silently held up photos of victims of online child sex exploitation. The hearing began with a short reel of victims and their parents discussing their tragic experiences, with one declaring that, "Big tech failed to protect me. "I was sexually exploited on Facebook," said one child in the video, who appeared in shadow. In the hearing room, dozens of parents stood waiting for the CEOs to enter, holding pictures of their children.
Chairman Durbin, Ranking Member Graham, and esteemed members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to discuss X's work to protect the safety of minors online. Today's hearing is titled A Crisis, which calls for immediate action. As a mother, this is personal, and I share the sense of urgency. X is an entirely new company, an indispensable platform for the world and for democracy. You have my personal commitment that X will be active and a part of this solution.
Snap CEO Evan Spiegel, Discord CEO Jason Citron, and ex-CEO Linda Yaccarino were issued subpoenas to compel their appearance, while Zuckerberg and Shou appeared voluntarily. Zuckerberg sought to highlight Meta's efforts to address concerns, including more than $20 billion in safety and security spending since 2016. Overall, teens tell us that this is a positive part of their lives, but some face challenges online, so we work hard to provide parents and teens support and controls to reduce potential harms, Zuckerberg said. During one charged moment at the hearing, Graham asked Zuckerberg what he would say to the family of South Carolina Representative Brandon Guffey, whose son died by suicide after being sexually extorted on Instagram. What do you think about it? Write your opinion in the comments and do not forget to watch other shocking news on the channel.